is that it's a film of the past, run through the projector of today onto the screen of tomorrow. That film never changes, but your projector has to get updated. Once it's updated, you see a future you didn't see before. Also, the Olelo No'eo, which refers to the Kaho'ivai, the water gourd. The water gourd represents the person, the Kaho'ivai represents the person, and water in the gourd represents knowledge. The gourd with a little bit of water makes the most noise when you shake it. You guys got that one? So when you hear a lot of swishing, a lot of angle, feel the gourd. Feel the gourd. But some gourds, you know what? No, nothing. It's just air. It's real light. So we all have to start to feel the gourd. But what's happening is the rubber is about to meet the road. I'm already in communication with the international level. Fact-finding commission of inquiry is coming. It's coming. Just a matter of time. And people have to pause. Don't get dantaran. Don't act like you know what you're talking about. You're gonna get hit. I guarantee it. So the best thing to do is lay low. Best thing is build up your traps. You know, you build up your traps. I never know. All of a sudden, holy, somebody's getting big trouble. I don't know. It's the best thing you want to do. Don't say I know, then you get in trouble. Because whatever you say can and will be used against you. Remember all those things happening to us perfectly? Those are war crimes. Everything that happened to Lance Larson, war crimes. Did you know war crimes have no statute of limitation? They're still chasing Nazis today. Be careful how this plays out. So let me give it a short scenario of what could happen. The Fact-Finding Commission of Inquiry, according to the rules of the Permanent Court of Arbitration, there's only been 5 so far. And I've studied those 5 to get an idea of what this is going to be. A Fact-Finding Commission of Inquiry, what they do is they look at facts and they assign liability. In the 5 that was done, they're looking at criminal liability. When they do that, they find the information, they assign the responsibility, but it's up to another court to prosecute. That's how it works. So so fact-finding commissions of inquiry under the Permanent Court of Arbitration operate similar to a grand jury. Yeah. That's how they operate. What has happened in the case of Lance Larson has gotten even bigger. Last year, I filed a petition with the United States federal court in Washington, D.C. against Trump as president, not in his private capacity, and others. And it's called the Petition for Writ of Mandamus. The Petition for Writ of Mandamus is basically an administrative process. So I'm basically showing that the treaties of the Hawaiian Kingdom, the treaties called the Hague Geneva Convention, have not been complied with, and that the United States must begin to administer the laws of the occupied state. And I'm asking the court to issue an order to mandate the president to follow the law. That's not like a complaint. I'm just saying follow the law. But I gotta lay out allegations of facts that warrant this request. So I did that. Laid out the history of Hawaii, occupation, Hague Geneva Convention, UN human rights expert, Lance Larson's case, everything all lined up. The judge took it upon herself to review, and this is the same judge now that is presiding over, you know, the Russian agent, the woman. Yeah. Mm-hmm. This is the judge, the same one in my case. What she did was, she ruled that it's going to be dismissed. So she dismissed it. Sounds kind of bad, yeah? Actually, it's really good. Because there's ways to dismiss. What happens is, Rule 12 of the Civil Rules of Civil Procedure. Rule 12 deals with dismissals. But there is what is called Rule 12b-1 as opposed to a Rule 12b-6. So Rule 12b-1 is a dismissal because this court doesn't have jurisdiction to hear the case. When you dismiss something under Rule 12b-1 and call it a political question, what you're also saying is that all the allegations are true. It's just that this is the wrong venue. So political question is, it belongs to the Congress or the executive branch. That's a political question. Now, Rule 12b-6 is failure to state a claim upon which relief can be granted, meaning the plaintiff has not provided a satisfactory claim, which will deal with possibly standing. Maybe the plaintiff didn't have standing to file, so they dismiss it. Or it's a moot issue. There's no dispute, right? Or the case hasn't been ripened enough for them to make a decision. This was a Rule 12b-1 dismissal of political question, which says that the court, in dismissing a complaint on a Rule 12b-1, accepts as true all factual allegations. Okay. The U.S. Attorney's Office knew that. The U.S. Attorney's Office is supposed to respond. The U.S. Attorney's Office asked if they could respond, but they got to file a motion. So they filed a motion that says, motion to answer the petition for writ of mandamus in light of the order of dismissal. Because the U.S. Attorney knew that by the judge doing that, all the allegations are true. They're going to try to show that this is a failure to state a claim upon which relief can be granted. That's a Rule 12b-6. The judge said, no, political question, bang. Perfect. You know why? That is an answer by the federal government that all these facts are true. You know where it goes? The Fact-Finding Commission of Inquiry. Now all they gotta do is assign liability. It's all there. So this game that I've been playing, it's kind of a sophisticated game. It's like playing a game of chess. And you gotta anticipate the moves before you move. And that's how this thing has developed, right? So it's pretty big. For people that want to find out the latest, follow this blog, boingkingdom.org/blog. You have the latest updates. The greatest thing here is there's nothing to join. Just get educated. Talk to your family. Start normalizing things. That's all it is. I'm not here to get you to join anything. I got enough to take care of my family. I got a granddaughter I want to hang out with, but I teach at UH and that's continuous. So I might be heading out to Europe and addressing this, and once it moves, it moves. But it's all timing. It's all timing. So within 2 decades, I tell you, we've radically shifted this paradigm into what is being appropriate, and it's being recognized. You know, let me read to you, one of the arbitrators, the former arbitrators, sent us an email regarding all of this. His name is Gavin Griffith. Let me read to you what he said. Arbitrators up to speed. What was the latest? Because what they knew in 2001 is not what everybody knew. What they knew in 2001 is different from what everybody knows today. A lot has transpired. So they reviewed it. So Gavin Griffith writes, I received for information a copy letter to Judge so-and-so and emailed response. See, that's who we're working with to get this thing moving. I read with interest as the prior history as summarized in the tribunal's reasons in the arbitral award is updated. He's recognizing it's updated. Okay. And then he writes, as you and Dr. Sai are aware, the tribunal completed its remit on publication in 2001. That's the arbitral award that I was referring to. But thank you for the further information. And he ends with this, present events are tomorrow's history. That's pretty powerful, and that's what I'm engaged with. So what you don't see me is at activities where people holding sign, screaming, yelling. No, we got work to do. And a lot of times we work best under the radar. Because I don't tell you what I'm going to do, I tell you what we did. Because otherwise, it's like telling people I'm going fishing, when I should just be saying I'm going holo holo. Because if I say I'm going fishing, then some of you might be screaming and the fish going to swim away. When I come back with the poke, you know I went fishing and you know where I went to get this particular kind of fish. And this type of fish from Holland tastes a little different than the ahi.
Mayonnaise.
Any questions?
Where the fact-finding commission you're going to, where's that?
It's going to be in The Hague. Yeah, Permanent Court of Arbitration. Yeah. It's going to continue where it left off.
Do you have a date for that, when it will happen?
As soon as it's done, you'll know. Guaranteed. Yeah. But see, now when it happens, see, everybody now internationally are going to appreciate what's going on. Because now they understand, as opposed to what happened in 1999, nobody knew nothing. This is it. What the hell happened up there? And then when I come home, I'm trying to explain to people what happened. No, that's not what happened. This is what happened. Hey, how take it easy. What book you read? You know, he's like, bro, you gotta go get your degree. Try to become an expert in something, and don't give me your opinion, right? Because this is a complicated issue. For real, it is. That's why not everybody can get a PhD in this area. And a PhD is something original to contribute, meaning there is no PhD that are alike, because you can't. They have to be separate, something original. This PhD was focusing on this and how we fix the problem.
I'm just gonna, can you explain how you got your PhD? Improved?
Yeah, so when you get a PhD, you got to defend your research. You don't argue it. Yeah, that's how research works. So I purposely selected professors to sit on my doctoral committee who I knew could not agree with me that Hawaii's occupied. See, that's how you defend your dissertation. So I cut through the chase. Let's bring people who can critique, who are capable of critiquing. So I had the dean of the law school, Aviam Soifer. U.S. constitutional law is his background. Well, I guess you gotta find out what it is. The dean from the University of London, Great Britain, Matthew Craven, state sovereignty and international law. 3 political science professors. Neil Milner, folks probably used to see him on Channel 4 News. He's a political pundit. His area is law and judicial behavior. John Wilson, a professor, political science, theory of sovereignty. And Katharina Heyer, public law. Then I had one Native Hawaiian on my committee, Kanalu Young, from Hawaiian Studies, who passed away before I defended, and John Osorio stepped in. So I had 5 Howleys and 1 Native Hawaiian on my committee. And they were trying to break it, which is good, because I welcomed it. See, the one thing that I got from the Army, I know how to take critique. It's called after-action reviews. That's how it works. But for local people, they don't like to be critiqued. No, I'm serious. They like throw blows after a while. You know, you challenging me. No, take it easy. I'm just pointing out the fact that's wrong. See, in the Army, you get tantaran, people die. Because you're not learning from your mistakes. So when I went into this system called academics and analytical rigor, man, I can take critique. Then it's up to me to see if I can shore it up. And if they can find a hole in it, guess what? I'm not going to get the PhD. That's how it works. So that was what I did. And I purposely selected these people of the highest caliber that I could at the university to sit on my committee, because that should speak to when I leave the university, and that's where I'm coming from. So when I got Uncle trying to tell me, no, that's not what happened, then I just got to go, okay. All right. You know what I do when Uncle starts to get a little swishy, you know, when your feet start shaking. I have my escape valve. You know what my escape valve is? Okay. I don't want to argue with Uncle, right? You know, it is, because I believe that, what I tell people is I'm never wrong. No, seriously, I'm never wrong. I told my wife, I'm never wrong. I'm just temporarily off track. So help me get back on track. See, when you come across that way, you're not so defining. Some people like draw the line. I'm right. I'll take it easy. temporarily off.
Yeah.
You know, and that is a way to get everybody on board. But if they still believe it, then that's when I gotta bust up my skate route.
Yeah.
Yes,
Just,
I'm sorry.
Question, yeah. So once it's recognized in this international body.
Well, not recognized, because it's already recognized. It's just people made aware, like, oh, it was always there.
Of course, it's there, we know that, but once it's, what is it, in other words, from that point on, because I know internationally, is there another example of another country that was occupied, that got international? And how does it move to next?
Well, the first, okay, so, what stage are we in international law? Stage 3, which is occupation,
Yeah.
right? So occupation we're in, but the law of occupation is not being complied with. That's the problem. So we have to force the United States to comply with the law of occupation. And how you force it? War crimes. Starts to eat the rock. People now are feeling uncomfortable and are starting to do what they're supposed to do. See, the United States of America cannot commit a war crime because it's a country. Individuals can. That's what's important. So this issue is not about the United States of America. It's about, what are you doing? You're in violation of the law of occupation. Did you know that that's a war crime? Oh, what do I do? Good question. You're starting to ask the right questions now. So it's not a matter of when it gets recognized. So the issue is more when is the United States going to begin to comply with the law of occupation? See, that's the most appropriate question. And that is what we're working on. We are forcing compliance. So here, let me give you an example. This is Hawaii, this little battery. This is the United States, this big hand. This is Hawaii, 1893.
Yeah.
How do you get this very strong hand to release the rock?
My word.
Heat the rock. The consequence of the heat will force the hand to release it. And if it won't release it, the heat will burn a hole through the hand. Because this is sovereignty. This is international law. Now how do you play it? That's how it works. So how do you heat the rock? Okay, so before you folks came, it was all dark. Right? Where's Makapo? And all of a sudden, light. Now you're starting to see something. Now you see more. What is a source of light? What happens when you touch the ball? It's hot. And you get burned, right? So what you're supposed to do is step back away from the flame and take advantage of the light. And that light, if you're too close, you're gonna feel the heat. And if you refuse to back off, guess what? You get burned. These are war crimes. You're an insurgent. See, now you're feeling the individual pressure. This is not about rallying the troops to believe something. This is called look at what's going on. One of the options that is recognized by the United States military, it's in U.S. Army Field Manual 27-10. What does an injured belligerent do if violation of the laws of war takes place against them? First one, remedial action. Publication of the facts with the intent of influencing public opinion against the offending belligerent. That's the first step. It's called exposure. You know when we decided to go back to the University of Hawaii to begin that exposure? That was from FM 27-10. Publication of the facts. Once you move from publication of the facts, the next step to ensure compliance to the laws of war, form commissions of inquiry to hold people accountable. It's all in the FM 27-10. Then also move for reprisals. You can now take property to force the other side to. So there is a way to fix the problem, but you gotta do it according to football rules. And people are not familiar with these kind of rules. I am, from not just my PhD, but also being in the military. And it's in FM 27-10. So if you look at it, we're really just following the rules, which is forcing everybody and exposing others who are not following the rules. That's all it is. But you have to be consistent. And the one thing that we've been for all these years is very consistent. And you have to have patience, because you're not going to change 126 years of brainwashing overnight. It begins with addressing that institutionalization of denationalization. And that's why our focus and our continues, or started and continues with education, and get the publication of the facts going. Enough talk, power the rhetoric. Brother, put your money where your mouth is. Write something, give me a white paper. Give me some informed decision that you rely on, precedents that will lead us into a possible decision-making process. Not, oh, I get my opinion, brother. Opinion's power. We're dealing with real life stuff, and people getting hurt. Yes?
So, the next step that we would be working towards would be a treaty. How far out would that be, and what would that look like? Who would that be? In
I'm not here to push for a treaty of peace.
But then we can't conclude the war.
No, I'm here to ensure compliance to the law of occupation.
But we don't want to be occupied.
Oh, yeah.
Compliance.
No, you don't want the occupier to leave. What they're gonna do is fix the problem that they made. Because you know, Japan was occupied for 7 years, from 1945 to 1952. And Japanese law was being applied. If anything, that's an indicator. Possibly 7 years of the law of occupation. I'm not here to get America out and put people like us in. That's like going from the frying pan to the boiling pot. Just to prove a point that we got them out. No. We're dealing with a bigger issue. We got the political economy, we got trade, we got brainwashing, we got pollution of lands, we got Kaolavi, we got Parawa. Hey, nobody's leaving anywhere until you clean up. And that's the law of occupation.
I'm not saying anyone's leaving. I'm asking you that doesn't have to.
No, a treaty of peace will have everybody leave. That's a treaty of peace. And that happened in 1952 when it took effect and the occupation of Japan ended. But for 5 years, Japanese law was administered. What we have is 126 years of not complying with the law, which is what we're in. So it's not a matter of get on. And then we also have to deal with the fact that our own people work for the state of Hawaii, but they're not insurgents. But yet they're committing war crimes because they're collecting taxes from people, which is called pillaging. So me as a faculty member at the University of Hawaii, guess what? My paycheck is from pillaging. I accepted that fact. But what am I doing about it? So there's a way to fix the problem. All of that is part of a process. So what you folks are learning here was just an introduction into the bigger picture, but it gets very technical and complex. And people getting involved have to be in that area. And I don't keep or contain assistance. What I look for all over the world is who has experience in something like us that we can take advantage of. I don't care if you're Italian, I don't care if you're German, where you at and what you got. It's not about, hey, Hawaiian, let's get together and let's figure it out. You know what happens when you get 100 confused Hawaiians together? It's called compounded confusion. See, I can joke about it because I'm Hawaiian, because I used to get confused. And then sometimes you get together, you get more confused, and you forgot why you got together. But somehow we have this belief that if we just come together, we can fix the problem. No. This is like asking who knows how to operate on somebody's brain? Let's just get together and somehow spontaneous come back. I don't know how to be a neurosurgeon. You know, everything we have or do has consequences. That's what this is all about. So we have a lot of mana that our people have. I'm into channeling the mana. I'm not into terminating the mana. Just kind of focus it. Because before I joined the military, trust me, I choked mana. I was going all over the place. I was so colloided at commitment schools. But once I got into the military college, that's what happens after you punch somebody. It's called accountability. Maybe I shouldn't punch. See, did you know that? I found this out. When you know how to fight, because I know how to fight. I used to box in the military. I was on a boxing scholarship. Even as an officer. When you know you can fight, is when you know you don't have to fight. That's what I learned. It's all proportionate, right? Give you an example of proportionality. A mosquito is here, right? I don't use a 155 howitzer to take out the mosquito because I just took out my own wall. What I do is, oh, got him. I still got my wall. Just gotta clean up a little bit of blood. Okay, we good. But some guys like blast them with howitzers just to prove a point. Slow down, uncle. It's all good. That's our wall. So it does take a lot of patience. And I've seen a lot of people that are coming to meeting with people. A lot of people don't have patience. They want it now. Sound like. You know? It's okay, but it doesn't fix the problem. I gotta look ahead. Because Queen Bibi Okalani had to do what she did. Well, she could have easily taken out the guys. And the president said she could. She had 500 men ready to go with artillery, taking out 160 Marines. But she knew what's coming, more Marines. She was level-headed. We have to think ahead before you make a move. And that's what I do. And where I learned that from our Kutuma. But too much, see, there's a difference between reacting to a crisis and responding to a crisis. Big difference, you know. When you react to a conference, you're running away. That's a reaction. When you respond to a crisis, you're going to it. You ever saw active shooters? Reacting to the crisis, people are running for safety. Who do you see going into the crisis? The cops. Because they're trained that way. They're responding to the crisis through their training. They're not arbitrarily doing it. We were trained that way in the Army. I loved it. I'm not afraid to engage. See, the one thing that we learned, that I learned, never retreat. Because when you retreat, you show your butt because you're running, right? It's called withdrawal. You're still facing the enemy. There's a difference between retreating and withdrawing. Because when you withdraw, you're getting ready to hit again. And you're assessing the situation. So there's a lot of strategy that comes into play with this kind of stuff. And not everybody can play this game because the game I play is for keeps. I still get attacked. Oh yeah, I get attacked all the time. I'm used to it. I've seen some people, they can't handle that. One guy, it was actually just a short story. One guy, when things were happening, he said, yeah, hang on. Keeping anybody away. You hang on. And then he would show up weekly just to hear us talk and come up with strategies. And after a while, we didn't see him. Years later, I go, Rob, Mike, where you at? He said, Rob, hanging out with you guys. He's like holding on to the tail of a tiger running through the jungle. I couldn't keep up, I had to release. And I said, bro, the problem is, you're not supposed to be holding on to the tiger. You're supposed to be a part of that tiger. See, he saw it as something else that he wanted to watch and see. He was saying, brother, where are you in this tiger? You're the paw, you're the tail for the balance, you're the brain, you're the eyes. It's not just us. So that's another approach, and I've seen many people can't handle it. And it's okay, because not everybody is on the field playing football. But like Seattle Seahawks, you got the 12th man. Who's the 12th man? The crowd, because they know the game. So everybody has a place. Not everybody got to be a quarterback. Not everybody has to be a wide receiver. But you got to know what you're playing and what you can contribute. And sometimes the best way to contribute is just support. Clap. Yeah. 2 points. That's a lot. That's where we are right now. Where is everybody? Because I can't tell any of you where you are. Only you can know where you are. And it's irresponsible and disrespectful of me to tell you what you gotta do. I know what I gotta do. I got my kuya, and I carry full responsibility for it. It comes with everything. So all of a sudden, when I got the PhD, it went from, hey, you Keanu side. Perfect title days are because they're watching the news of Joe Moore calling me a charlatan. Yeah, Joe Moore calling me a charlatan. You know what happened when he called me a charlatan, huh? No, first thing, what the hell's a charlatan? A shyster. Wow. Frickle. All of a sudden, I'm getting smeared all over the place. But I went back and pulled up the newspapers from the Star Bulletin back then, the advertiser. Did you know they're saying the same thing? They're writing what we're still saying. Perfect title. Claims that titles are defective because Hawaiian Kingdom law is not being followed. It makes perfect sense now, right? It sounds crazy in 1995. But there's a record of it. So now, you know, sometimes I go, hey, you can't outside. I go, what? Go to bed. I'm watching. Now, hey, duck aside. Oh, everything changed though. I said, bro, you know, I took your class. Hey, right on. That's what it's like. So since that started, about 5 years ago, no, 3 years ago, I put my ring back on. Actually, my ring never fit, so I had to go kaneohe. Get bigger. But now I got it on. Yeah. So there's also the personal side. I got my family. And I still play this game. So I'm not here to lead anybody. Don't follow me, follow the law. And that's my approach, right? What I'm here to do is to empower you guys to be who you are. What I believe in is maximizing kuleana. I'm not into dictating your kuleana. If you're a teacher, be the best teacher you are. Like Hawaii State Teachers Association. They introduced that resolution. That means they understood what they introduced. They could speak to it. That means they owned it. Awesome. Police officer. Be the best police officer you can. My son is a cop. HPD. Right? Be the best cop you are and follow the rules. Otherwise, you can get hit. See, hold people accountable. So there's a difference between telling people you're responsible as well as holding people responsible. And that's when you gotta know what's going on. You cannot rely on others to do it for you. Just as you shouldn't be relying on me. But you know that this is my kuleana and this is what I gotta do. And then when you see me at a luau, hey, I'm just Keanu, you know. So I can tell who somebody is today. When somebody says, when they call me Anu, oh, that's family, good friend. Call me Keanu, somebody that knows me. They call me David, serving us restaurant. I'm working in the system. I'm not against the system, right? And it's the transition of this system. So just as our government got hijacked in 1893, and the only change happened was the governor, or was the monarch. The same thing will happen today. Change the head, administer Hawaiian Kingdom law, now bringing the oath of allegiance on the Hawaiian Kingdom law. It's just reversing everything. That's all it is. And guess what? We already got people in the system. We got the police. We got the teachers. I'm not here to change all of that. It's called resource management. I'm not trying to change anything. I'm just adjusting management. That's all it is. You know, so it's a very doable thing. I've seen it, and I'm currently seeing it in operation. And I'm working with government officials that contact me. They want to have consultation. So we talk. I explain. So things are taking place that happen below the radar that I don't say. You guys good?
Alii.
So with that.